The Early Sociocognitive Battery is a measure of social cognition in preschool children. The assessment was developed building on research carried out by Penny Roy and Shula Chia at City University. This research was originally part of the Very Early Processing Skills study and long-term looked at the nature of children's language difficulties. I became involved in the project about 5 years ago when I saw the value that the ESB would add to speech and language therapy services. The ESB is comprised of 3 subtests: social responsiveness, joint attention and symbolic comprehension. We're looking in these subtests at skills that emerge in typically developing children between 8 and 15 months. So, what are we looking at? In social responsiveness, we're looking at how a child responds to facial expressions. Does a child look at you when you change your face? How long do they look at you? And what's their reaction to this? In the joint attention subtest, we're looking at how a child responds to the adult's shift of eye gaze and use of pointing to direct their focus to an object that's in sight but out of reach. The child's given a number of opportunities to do this so that we obtain a really comprehensive picture. In the symbolic comprehension subtest, we're looking at a child's ability to understand symbols. Does a child understand that a gesture for scissors is the same as scissors? Do they understand that a miniature book is the same as a book? Finally, in the last part of this subtest, we're looking at skills that are a little bit more difficult. Can a child understand a substitute object? So, can a child understand that a shell can be used to represent a plate, or a cup could be used to represent a hat? Children generally respond really well to the ESB. The tasks have been designed specifically with young children in mind, so the objects used are motivating, they're fun and they're engaging. Because the task is relatively quick, 15 minutes in total, the children engage with the objects that are being presented to them. Speech and language therapists and psychologists would be particularly interested in the ESB for a number of reasons. Firstly, because what the ESB provides is psychometrically robust, it's standardised, and it provides a really clear and objective measure of a child's skills in these areas. Prior to knowing about the ESB, I think a lot of these skills were assessed informally, so I could ask a colleague, how do you measure these skills? The way that they do it wouldn't necessarily be wrong, but we would all be doing it in a different way. Having the ESB provides an objective measure of these skills, which allows for comparison and it allows for greater insight into outcomes. There might be a number of next steps following an ESB assessment. One of these might be a referral onto a multidisciplinary service for assessment of social communication, perhaps autism spectrum disorder, depending on the child's performance on the assessment. If the assessment has highlighted deficits in social cognition, and this has been something that parents have observed and have concerns about as well, this is perhaps a necessary next step.